we're going to dive in now to Huevo de Angel, the 1985, December, I believe it was, theatrical film released by Tokuma Shoten and helmed creatively by Mamoru Oshii and Yoshitaka Amano. In A Talk to Teachers, James Baldwin said, "To ask questions of the universe and then to learn to live with those questions is the way that a person achieves their own identity." And I think that this film, Angel's Egg, is a artistic search for that, is asking questions of the universe. And it is two men stumbling around, some might say, of having conflicted feelings on faith, their own faith, and faith in general. And I'm going to read another quote here. Lawrence S. Cunningham, in the book Catholic Heritage, says that those who have a falling out from Catholicism are, quote, outsiders who either leave the Catholic tradition, having been born into it, or approach it as prospective converts, but never make a gesture of allegiance, or they convert and then in time leave it. In all of these cases, however, the outsiders draw sustenance from this tradition, or react against it dialectically so that the tradition is illuminated, or they share its values, even though they may do so in a grudgingly inverted manner. And I feel that this grudgingly inverted manner of drawing from Catholicism, interacting with it, probing it, kicking against it, very adequately describes Oshii's orientation towards it here when he's making Angel's Egg with Amano. Now, before talking more about Oshii and Amano, yes, I'm going to talk a lot. I'm sorry. Let me just apologize in the front end for all the talking from just me.
There's talking on a podcast? Never.
Very boring. It's very boring.
Nonsense.
I'm sorry.
More visuals.
Yes, I agree. The information that I'm going to relay mostly comes from the following three sources. I'm going to list them here so that you can track them down if Oshii and Amano interest you. And these are sources that contain a lot of info about Angel's Egg, but also about the life and career and art of Oshii and Amano in general. So they span the oeuvre of both of these guys. Of course, any discussion of Oshii needs Brian Rue's The Stray Dog of Anime, The Films of Mamoru Oshii. Excellent book. Brian is also on Twitter, and he's a cool guy. He wrote for Anime News Network for a little while. He had a column called Brian Diving, and it was a heady column. Did for about a year, maybe even 11 months. But he wrote the book on Oshii, basically, that we have. I think it's first published in 2004, and maybe one more edition came out in 2011. I'm kind of going from memory here, but he really knows his shit on Oshii, and the book is super accessible. Brian's an academic, but the book reads quite well. And also, the book Humanity in Anime, Analyzing the Films of Mamoru Oshii by Sean Hartlieb. It's a bigger, has more, information. It's a little bit more recent, and is more devotes many more pages to interpreting the films. Brian does that as well. There's stuff in there. There's analysis, but where he might have 8 to 10 pages, Hartlieb will have 40 to 50, and so there's a lot there. And also, Yoshitaka Amano Illustrations is mostly a book that Viz published this, and it is mostly that. It is mostly illustrations, but there are a handful of interviews, and there is a timeline of his career, and it is super fascinating to read. So check that stuff out if you are interested in these guys and want to get some insight into the folks who made Angel's Egg. Want to read some discussion of Angel's Egg. So, Mamoru Oshii. Do you guys have any prior experience with Mamoru Oshii?
Well, if you have any sort of vague idea, like, wait a minute, where have I heard that name before? Then he did the original 1993 Ghost in the Shell, if I'm not mistaken.
95, I think, but yes.
Damn it! So kind of close.
It's okay.
So kind of close. But yes, he did Ghost in the Shell from 1995, and funnily enough, actually, looking back on Ghost in the Shell, there are certain visual elements from that actually do appear in Angel's Egg, particularly the presence of a world tree at one point, which was quite prominently featured at the conclusion of Ghost in the Shell. And certain other, touches here and there. But for a lot of people, I suspect that I would imagine would be the most likely contact they've had with Oshii prior to this, I would say.
That was his international breakthrough, absolutely. How about you guys, AIL?
Well, we have failed to watch Patlabor 2 twice.
No, we kind of got through it.
We have failed to finish Patlabor the movie 2 twice, accidentally. But we did watch Ghost in the Shell.
I know. We're terrible podcasters because that's everybody's favorite Patlabor thing, and it's our least favorite Patlabor thing that we've encountered so far.
We started with the OVAs, and they're so fun, and then we went to the movie, and it's so very, very Oshii.
Especially the second one.
Yes.
The mostly the second one?
Yeah.
It's like every character has the personality of the characters from Angel's Egg in the Patlabor universe.
They all are much more sort of morose versions of themselves.
Yes.
Whereas the personalities and the tone was what attracted me to Patlabor in the first place.
And like halfway through the movie, I forgot there were robots.
Yeah. I think the movie forgot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. I thought there were just taxis and politics. But we did love the Gets movie.
Patlabor 2 was the end of Oshii's comedy anything.
I'll say.
He stopped making jokes of any kind in real life or in film. I mean, I love Patlabor 2. I adore Patlabor 2. But I get it. The first time I tried to watch it when I was like 16, I noped out real quick.
Yeah.
So I get you. Sorry, Sean, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, from what I've seen of Angel's Egg now, I don't think Oshii can technically have a sense of humor. I don't imagine he would ever, be able to engage in banter, for example.
Oh, just wait. Just wait. You could be. You'll find yourself surprised, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
When we chat some more about this. Okay, so I'm glad that this wasn't your first Oshii, because while you certainly can say about Angel's Egg that it is very Oshii, like it's definitely not his most accessible work. For a lot of people, it's not his most like iconic. Like when they think of Oshii, they're going to think of Ghost in the Shell and Patlabor. Those were the runaway success stories.
Yeah.
In his career, but Angel's Egg's a pretty special film. So just to get into Oshii's life, there's no good way to lead into this, so I'm just going to drop the fact. His dad was a private detective.
Wow. Okay.
That explains so much.
Right? Is that why you asked us about anime dads before?
Maybe.
That's incredible.
If your dad's a private eye, I think you're kind of guaranteed to have an interesting life.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to hide shit from him for a start.
There's no privacy.
No.
Son, I know you hate me. I was bugging your room.
I know where you kept the goods.
How's it going, son? Just kidding. I already know.
Right. And enjoy your illicit drugs in the middle drawer of your desk. I'm not going to do anything. I just know I know. He was often Mr. Oshii, Detective Oshii, out of work, but he loved the movies. And he would pull little Mamoru-chan, out of school to watch movies with him, to take him to the cinema. And this is where Oshii first developed his love of film. And he just kept watching movies from a tiny age on forward, and not not just Japanese movies, all sorts of movies from that influence and a broad palette of sci-fi that he was into. In fact, he's a big science fiction fan, and he read like the authors that were formative for him were all Western authors. So he's got kind of a similar sci-fi heritage to us. And so I think that's why a lot of his sci-fi resonates with people that like science fiction over here.
Are there any particular authors that are noted that he was into?
So I'm reading from Hartlieb, who says he read primarily from foreign writers such as Robert Heinlein.
Okay. Heinlein makes so much sense, it's actually kind of terrifying.
Theodore Sturgeon, J.G. Ballard, and Marion Zimmer Bradley.
Oh, no Asimov, damn it.
No. So he came to Japanese sci-fi later, but authors, it says, like Yukio Mishima and Osamu Dazai, but he came to them as an adult. As a child and teenager, again, he was formed by sci-fi of the West, which, again, I think when you watch a lot of Oshii, makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And he loved film and sci-fi because he loved escapism. He said that, like, so many things in his life that he's done have been to escape from reality. Like, when he was giving the interview, that he was saying that, and he said, even now, that's what I'm trying to do. And this includes his high school political activism. He was very sort of left-wing, or he was pulled into groups that were, I should say, because in a later interview, he said that he didn't understand or maybe not understand, but he didn't really passionately believe like in the principles of Marxism, but he felt like while he was passing out flyers for that political activist group, he felt like he belonged to something much more so than when he was in the classroom. And that is what resonated with him. And he said he felt even more that way, of course, when he was alone in his room reading science fiction. But one day his parents found out that he was doing this, and they like sent him away to live in the mountains for a little while.
Like you do.
Wow.
He wrote a book about this? Yes. So the police visited the Oshii home, and that's when his parents found out about their son skipping classes and his political activism. Reading from Hartlieb here. As punishment, Oshii was sent to a mountain hut in the Yamanishi prefecture.
That is a very extreme version of putting someone in the corner to think about what they did.
Go into this corner of the world.
Most parents send their kid to summer camp.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all they had as far as summer camp went, this tiny little mud hut in the middle of nowhere.
So he wrote this book that would relate these experiences that was published. I don't know if it was first published in 2005 or just published in English, but the date here is 2005. The book is Blood, the Last Vampire, Night of the Beasts.
That sounds like something you'd write in high school.
Yeah.
Yes. That book is informed by like his experiences living in the mountain hut. So your guy graduates, and in college, he meets a friend who loves the Bible and is a devout Christian and introduces Oshii to it. And Oshii falls in love with it. You know, he calls himself, even today, a very religious person. That did not last. I mean, he was committed to it to the point that, you know, I have a little bit of conflicting information. One source says that he was going to be a missionary, and the other source says that he was going to be a priest. But either way, Oshii was going to commit his life to Catholicism, like his life, career, everything. But he did not. He turned away, lost his faith. And, you know, for anyone who's gone through that, it's not a sort of switch that you flip. It probably starts to happen before you realize it. I don't know. Perhaps I'm just speaking from my own experiences and projecting, but it's a little agonizing. Takes a long time to work through a lot of things. I guess it depends on how deeply committed that you were in the first place. But Oshii goes through this, and it is this experience that most people, including Oshii, I believe, who's alluded to this. This is the chief thing that informs Angel's Egg and the plot they're in. But just to get us up to speed career-wise, after graduating college, he ran a radio station for a little while, and while he was doing that, he saw reruns of, I believe it was Gatchaman, and which is a old, 70, this was the 70s, so is the Tatsunoko production show, and he was really impressed with it, and he wanted to work on it, and he saw they were hiring, so he joined up. Thus began the anime career of one of the greats, and in the early 80s, he left Tatsunoko with his mentor to help found Studio Pierrot, and which is a huge
I didn't know
studio. That. Yeah, he was one of the founding members, and because he was, despite his lack of experience, he got to direct Urusei Yatsura, which is a landmark anime comedy sitcom based on the beloved Rumiko Takahashi manga. Urusei Yatsura is fan-fucking-tastic, by the way. It's a wonderful thing. Its influence can still be felt today in things like Darling in the Franxx.
Such seminal works as.
That's not a good thing to compare it to.
Well, stylistically and story-wise and everything, it's totally different, but just the inspiration of the 02 character. There's a nod to Lum from Urusei Yatsura, for sure, in addition to characters like Uruka from Uruka 7 and, Evangelion and things like that. But while at Pierrot, Oshii did a little thing, also in addition to Urusei Yatsura, which is also just a tiny little whatever. I believe in 1983, he helped direct and write the first ever OAV.
Whoa.
A science fiction series called Dallos, Dallos.
Oh, I've seen that.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
Didn't you stumble across that on Crunchy?
Yeah, I was playing Anime Roulette when I was homesick one day, and I was like, "Yep, this looks good."
Dangerous.
Yeah, very.
I've never seen it. Tell me about it.
It was a while ago, and I was fairly sick when I watched it.
I think I remember you liking it.
But yeah, I liked it a lot. It was a lot of moon colonist politics and a very, very big semi-religious robot.
That's all entirely surprising. Would never expected it in a million years.
Not at all. Yeah. Looking back now, it was in his wheelhouse.
Yeah. I think you remember just on a surface level being like, actually, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. It's something I haven't seen but would like to see. I think it was 4 episodes but condensed into a sort of a theatrical, not theater, but just a movie digest version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, home video was in the early 80s becoming a real big force in entertainment media, and OVA was a huge thing for anime, and Oshii was on the ground floor of that. I don't have it on me, but I forget the name of the person who co-directed it with him. He's actually not credited in the film itself as the co-director, but there was another director on that with Oshii. And I think people don't really remember it super. They don't hate it, but I think a lot of people think it's kind of unremarkable and cribs from Gundam a lot. And that may be true, but it's the first OVA, which is pretty rad. And then after, or I think probably while he was making the second Urusei Yatsura movie, Beautiful Dreamer, which is one of his very beloved works, and some of the stylistic flourishes and dreamlike sequences in it you can see in Angel's Egg, because this is the movie he made shortly before he made Angel's Egg. He was fighting a lot with Rumiko Takahashi because he was wanting to take the characters in these different directions from the manga, as evidenced by The Beautiful Dreamer and its kind of weirdness. And after doing that for 100 some odd episodes of the show, he quit. And he just was tired of, working for a studio. And so he wanted to be independent. And despite the fact that he's worked with Production IG on most of his stuff since the 90s, he considers himself an independent kind of auteur director. And the first thing he did upon breaking away from Pierrot was Angel's Egg, that came out again in 1985. Tokuma Shoten was a horrible mispronunciation by me. Tokuma Shoten was the studio he worked with to put it out. And he worked with a guy that I mentioned earlier, Yoshitaka Amano. And he first met Amano at Tatsunoko Productions. Let me tell you how Yoshitaka Amano got to Tatsunoko Productions, because it's amazing. This guy, I feel like, hit the lottery. He must have been, in his previous life, a saint. So, Amano is 15 years old, and his high school buddy is like, hey, come over to my house. And he said, cool, I will do this. And he did. Hey, friend, you live next to Tatsunoko Production. Yes, I do. Do you want to have a tour of the building? Sure. They go in, tour the building. Amano submits some sketches, because he likes to draw. These sketches are fucking rad, kid. Come work for us. And he does at 15.
Wow.
Nice.
That's crazy.
And so he was the character designer on all these classic Tatsunoko shows. From the age of 15, he said he started, doing school and anime studio work, but eventually just kind of quit school to just keep drawing. That's the first, wow, score one for your luck. But he proves the power of his luck stat by landing these 2 gigs that not only are hugely successful, which is great for an artist, but possibly as great for an artist are these long-term gigs that guarantee him work year after year after year. And that's the illustrator for Vampire Hunter D novels, Kikuchi novels. Awesome. I love Vampire Hunter D. Has anyone seen Vampire Hunter D?
I know of it, but I've not actually seen it.
Same.
It's both that and Bloodlust are awesome. They're fantastic movies. The books are fabulous also. Super pulpy, just good junk food stuff. And they flesh out the world a lot more. They're really good. And they have these Yoshitaka Amano covers and insert sketches that are just wonderful. But the thing that probably most people listening to this podcast know Amano for is that he is the character concept designer for Final Fantasy.
Yes, that's right.
It has been since the first one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's the one I can blame for Lulu having 10,000 belts as a dress.
Yes, possibly so. Though I'm not sure, because if you look at the concept work, like Amano's sketches are the characters. When I think Amano, I think very androgynous, watercolor, wispy, ethereal kind of characters and line work, and a lot of the designs can be quite different than in game than what they begin as. If you look at his Cloud Strife concept work or Locke from Final Fantasy VI, again, very androgynous, effeminate characters in the concept art, but not so much in the final games.
Well, except the Wall Market section, of course.
Yeah,
wink, wink.
That's right. How could I forget? Don Corneo, that part, so good. So Amano and Oshii met at Tatsunoko in their mid-20s, and Amano, in a 2012 interview on Anime News Network, which you can look up and read, just lauds that time at Tatsunoko. He said it's the funnest time he's had in his whole life. And everyone was doing whatever they wanted to do. Creativity was just flowing all around the building. Everyone was in their 20s. Everyone was full of inspiration. And so he got to work with this Mamoru Oshii that is in this mode. And so Oshii tapped him to help create the world of Angel's Egg. I will say this final thing and then let someone else talk, because holy Christ, I've been talking so much. I just want to take a moment and say that Angel's Egg, I think, whether you like it or not, there's something about it that makes it kind of a must-see. It's sort of almost a singular work. is, to me, it's really representative of a very particular time in anime history, the mid-'80s, when the OAV boom was happening, when money was coming in to the anime market, when a lot of creatives were becoming disillusioned with live-action cinema. A lot of artists wanted to draw fantastical things, and here was animation, right, to do that for. The anime market was growing, and Oshii and Amano got this money to make this movie that they would never get in a million years, like ever. The next decade, the 2000s, no one would pay for this movie to be made.
No, if you rocked up into any anime production office or even live action office, wherever, and just said, right, here's Angel's Egg, you could spend about 15 minutes discussing it, here's the response you'd get. Oh no, what is this? What is this nonsense? Just go. Just get out.
True.
I mean, this is not to say that, like, arty movies aren't made still, but this is just not a merchandisable thing.
Oh God! Can you imagine the Angel's Egg gacha game?
They're all eggs.
Angel's Egg pachinko machine. Pull the egg and get your, receive your fate from the floating orb.
You get the free sevens existential crisis bonus.
What's inside? You'll never know.
Yeah.
Oh,
You've won 10,000 feathers. Woo!
Bonus round, the fishermen attack.
Man, like the fact that the fucking Tokuma Shoten was like, yes, make this movie, is incredible. Because, like, Oshii in multiple places has said that after he made this movie, until he made Twilight Q2, which is the next thing he made a couple of years later, he said he was, quote, unemployed for a long time. Like, this movie was a bomb. Like, it made no money.
No kidding.
And was not appreciated by critics initially. But thankfully, due to Oshii's later successes, people came back to it and appreciated it, and it has gained a cult following. You've been experiencing an excerpt from the Warui Deshou Anime Podcast. To get the full episode, or any of our full episodes, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, visit our page on SoundCloud, or go to waruidesho.wordpress.com.